Coach Greg made a video admitting this underlying phobia about himself after taking a test online.
Ruslan.
Coach Greg, in today's video, Harvard says I'm fat phobic. And so I'm watching a video by Obese to Beast, and it says, I was diagnosed with fat phobia. What should I do now? And I'm thinking, I wonder if I'm fat phobic. And so I take an implicit association test. They show pictures of fat people and words, and you have to associate this and that, and how fast can you click the answers, blah, blah, blah. So the results of the test, let me read out what I am. Moderately automatic preference for thin people compared to fat people. Moderate, I would have thought it was strong. And so you're thinking, oh, I'm a bad person because I'm moderately fat phobic. And so what do you think a phobia actually is? Is it really bad that I don't want to be fat? That I don't want to be unhealthy? That I don't want to gain 100 pounds? That I prefer being thin? How is that a bad thing? I also like being smart. I don't like being dumb. I like being attractive. I like being taller. Is that bad? And so is it really shocking that I would take a test and it would say that I'm somewhat fat?
It's so triggered. The fact that he's this triggered as a fitness professional is amazing to me.
After all, let's look at the opposite of being phobic. The opposite, as in the antonym. The opposite of a phobia is known as a craving or liking. All right, and so let's think of it like this. If I'm not phobic, if I'm not fat phobic, it means the opposite, which is to like or crave it. I do not like or crave being obese. Sorry, I said it, telling you what you need to hear, not what you want to hear. You want to hear we treat everybody the same, that we're all equals. Do you really think that? Do you really think men treat all the other men the same as they treat women? Half the time, men are simping to the ladies. A woman goes up on a set, says a bunch of horrible jokes that no one laughs to. She gets off the stage, guys, like, yo, you were so funny. I was laughing the whole time. I absolutely loved it. Meanwhile, you're thinking she sucks, but you're simping. You're doing that because she's a woman, especially if she's a pretty woman. And why you do
Coach Greg hit the red pill arc.
He did. Oh my goodness.
Talking about men simping.
Bro, not to mention, talking about men simping, he also talked about women being bad comics.
doing that because you're liking or craving that person. And so is it really shocking that in the real world, you're liking or craving somebody who is thin over somebody who is obese? Years ago, I was in university, they did a study.
Oh my gosh,
and
the
they
B-roll.
examined children, grade primary. And so even at early as the age of 5, we know that kids are already conditioned to like people who are thin over people who are obese. We see it with their teachers, with their friends, their classmates, everybody. And so being obese, it certainly is a hindrance in your life.
They said as early as 5.
But you gotta admit, when you're a kid and you see you got the big body teacher, you know you're gonna have some good brain candy before this test, bro. You know, and they're a little more loving and warm, like a grandma.
Good, it has negative connotations. I think we already knew that. Same as being short. If you're 5'6" manlet like Coach Greg versus 6'2", who do you think is going to have an easier time getting a job, making friends, appearing to have more confidence, everything? So desperate are people to fit in, to have an advantage in life, and yes, height is an advantage, and yes, being thin is an advantage, that people are willing to do anything, including abusing performance-enhancing drugs, just to make that difference, just so they'll have an advantage over their peers. And so it is at all remotely shocking that Coach Greg or anyone in the world would have a phobia about being fat. Now, times, in fact, may be changing, but I know that years ago, people who were overweight were oftentimes bullied, made fun of, and so on. And I'm not saying that any of that is okay. But what I'm saying is it's understandable that people would not want to become obese. And to the same extent, I don't think guys who are 6'2" wish they could trade places with Coach Greg. Oh, if only I could be 5'6" like Coach Greg. I would be so
Coach
successful.
Greg, 5'6"?
Yeah, 5'6", yeah.
That's why he's a unit.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't work like that. When you're short and successful, it's the same as being ugly and successful. Have you not heard of beauty privilege? Being attractive makes it so much easier for you to do anything in life. I mean, baby Nikki Gert did a study on this. Meta-analysis showed that the more attractive you are on the good-looking Richter scale, the more money you can make. It applies everywhere. Imagine you're 400 pounds and your dream is to be a flight attendant on private jets with the rich and famous, traveling all over the world.
He's saying that privileges exist in pretty privilege.
I mean, think about sales too. A lot of like sales folks that do really well are usually like fairly attractive looking people. Think of real estate agents, the female, the men. It's a lot of, that's interesting.
Yeah, I mean, listen, privilege is real.
Yeah.
Privilege is
there we go.
A real thing. Regardless on what we want to pretend like it's not, it is. And so, of course, taller is going to be preferred more, generally speaking. Of course, attractive, skinny, all these things. These are realities that people don't want to acknowledge, but yet he's saying this is the way the world is working, unfortunately, right? And so there's certain things that people can control. And so the question is, can you control what you can control? Or are you relinquishing control so that you can play the woe is me?
Yeah.
And attraction within dating in the West is a couple main variables. Variable number 1 is BMI, right? If you're within a healthy BMI, you're going to be instantly viewed as more attractive.
You think that's variable number 1?
I think that's a huge variable in the West.
In the West for sure.
in the West.
I think you're probably right.
Variable number 2 is symmetry of face.
I think people that are, never mind, I'm not gonna say that. Go ahead.
So I'd say variable number 2 is symmetry of face. People can't control that. Unless you're going to go get work, which most of us would be like, no, getting work isn't good. But you can control your BMI. Variable number 3, I would say, is cleanliness, presenting yourself, showering, grooming yourself.
Yeah.
Variable number 4, which you can control, right? How you dress, whether you shower, the type of cologne you wear, the type of deodorant you wear, haircut, all of that you can control. A haircut that sits well on your face. And then I would say variable number 5 is novelty. The more novel you look, the more attractive you'll be perceived to be.
Dye my hair pink,
right?
So my wife loves me again.
So I'm trying to think of an example of like a novelty of dudes. That isn't as common. I would say the man bun. Chris has amazing hair.
That is true.
He has an amazing hairline, right? And so that's instantly going to make him more attractive because there's less men with amazing long curly hair.
Gingers on both genders sometimes stand out better and easier, you know, because it's a novelty.
Gingers, I would say blondes. There's less genetically blonde people.
Okay, is that why?
Mixed race people, interracial people.
Yeah,
more of a novelty. It's more common now. So some of that you can or can't control.
Yeah.
Right. So those are the variables of what is deemed attractive, you know, in the West. So those are, or at least that's my theory. We're going to talk more about that on Single Snap.
What do you think the odds are they're going to hire you? They might hire you, maybe somewhere in the world, but for the most part, they're not. Who do you think they're going to pick in an interview? Very good-looking, gorgeous female, 120 pounds, 5'7", very attractive, versus 5'7", 220 pounds. Who do you think they're going to pick? One has tons of experience. They're great. The other one, I just showed up. They're probably going to pick the girl that showed up. Have you seen a bottle girl at a bar? How often are the bottle girls ugly or obese? How often? And so we're going to an interview. Perhaps it's a beautiful woman or a taller, larger man who's very attractive over a short person who's overweight. Who do you think is getting the job? Yeah, not in every job will they care. But for the most part, overall, if you had to take the average, certainly you have very strong advantages being attractive, taller, good looking than if you're not. And so I didn't create the rules. I didn't start this, but I sure as heck am not going to lie to you and act as if it doesn't matter if you're obese or thin. Now, I know personally.
Also, losing weight can change the composition of your face as well.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So when we're talking about face symmetry, it's like you lose 20 pounds, 25 pounds, you got a whole new face. Congratulations.
And so it is even remotely shocking that kids grow up, they don't know how to eat. They learn to disguise their emotions with junk food. We celebrate everything with cake, birthday cake, and so on. We have Friday afternoons at work, and it's junk food. That's how people make friends. Oh, I'm going to bring in a box of donuts. Everyone likes that person. And that's what we do year after year. And
because you don't want to celebrate with food. Like, me and Melissa are thinking about that with Flynn. It's like, how do you not celebrate with food? But the Italian in me is like, come on, let's go celebrate with some food.
Or maybe like you celebrate with healthier food. Like I like celebrating with a healthy steak, the big old steak.
That's true.
You know?
True. Go bigger.
Yeah.
You're somebody who cares about health and fitness, and you're bringing in your Tupperware while they're serving cake. You say, what's wrong with that person? They have an eating disorder. What's going on? Why are you doing that? Well, maybe they just value their health. Maybe they value their health over eating junk food just to bond with other people. You remember the fat doctor? She says that you can't lose weight even if you try.
In fact, you would start regaining weight within the first year, even if you only ate lettuce and ran around Leicester Square for 3 hours. That is a fact.
That even if you run...
She's saying you're static. What did I tell you? What's the lie that I told you that Satanist tells us? That you're static. You are what you are.
I mean, after all, people who are overweight and or obese probably eat the same amount of calories, they eat just as healthy and do just as much exercise as everyone else. It's just simply their genetics. That is the only difference between somebody who's obese and somebody who's lean.
And I'm being sarcastic. Thanks for watching.
Calories in, calories out. Gain weight or lose
Dr.
weight.
Bird.
And so if you're obese, for example, 500 pounds right now, and you eat less and or move more, you will lose weight. Not saying it's easy, not saying you don't have an uphill battle, not saying you won't be hungry, but it is, of course, possible to lose that weight if you truly want to. The problem is many of us have been raised incorrectly, as in they're raised to eat too much food. Some people have more fat cells, more ghrelin. And so, yeah, the genetics do play a role. Some people are just naturally able to eat more because they have a faster metabolism. But in the end, it's on you.
The genetic difference is like 10% body fat versus 20% body fat. You know what I'm saying? It's not like, oh, I have to live at 40% body fat because my genetics.
It's just set. This is my life is predestined for me from my biology, and I have no free will, and I make no choices. I love who I love.
Yeah.
I crave what I crave. And that's it. Yeah. And I have the skills that I have.
Yeah.
What do you mean learn new skills to make more money, to have more time? What do you mean? How dare you? How dare you? We see according to the Bible that prayer is extremely important in terms of us being transformed from the inside out when we get aligned with God's will. For the Christians watching this channel, I want you guys to implement these spiritual disciplines in your day-to-day life. And the only way I've been able to do this consistently is through writing down my prayers in a prayer journal that does a few things. One, it allows me to reflect and come to God humbly and ask him to move on my behalf. And two, it allows me to document my prayers, which ultimately help me remember the very things that I was praying for and see the hand of God tangibly in my life when he answers them. So I would urge you, consider writing down your prayers. It could be in a blank notebook. It could even be on your phone. Or you could check out the one I personally designed and used from my own quiet time and spiritual discipline that I think will be a huge blessing. It's the exact structure and system that I've used for years to pray and be more consistent in my spiritual disciplines. You can pick yours up today by clicking the link in the pinned comment below. All right, I'll see you over there. Peace.